The snow came down in thick, silent sheets over Arlington National Cemetery, muffling even the sound of Evelyn Harlow's own breathing. She was on her knees in Section 60 dress blues soaked through, clutching a plain gray urn to her chest like it was the only thing keeping her heart inside her ribs. Alexander James Harlow, born March 14, 2007, died November 29, 2027. Cause of death, lethal injection. State of Virginia, after a closed military tribunal found him guilty of murder in the first degree. The murder had happened at a Georgetown fraternity house. A senior was found stabbed 17 times. The knife had Alex's prints. The security footage had Alex's face. The confession signed while he was sedated on morphine after a suicide attempt in holding had Alex's shaky signature. Except none of it was true. Evelyn knew because she had watched the real killer brag about it on a burner phone she later found in her own laundry room. Dylan Langford, 17, blonde, perfect smile laughing that some people are just born to take the fall. And the man who made sure Alex took it. 4-star General Nathan James Caldwell, United States Army, chairman of the Joint Chiefs nominee, Evelyn's husband of 19 years. She had carried the urn straight from the prison to the Pentagon gala that same night. Security had tried to stop her at the door, but no one touches a woman holding her child's ashes. She walked across marble floors in boots crusted with cemetery mud until she stood in the middle of crystal chandeliers and dress uniforms, and found him. Nathan, resplendent in mess dress, raising a champagne flute to his new bride, Sophia Langford, widow of a fallen colonel, defense lobbyist, and tonight, Mrs. General Caldwell. The ring on her finger had been paid for with the life insurance money from Evelyn's own surgical practice. Nathan's eyes met hers across the ballroom. For one heartbeat. Something flickered there, guilt, maybe fear. Then it was gone. He turned back to the Secretary of Defense and laughed at a joke Evelyn couldn't hear. She had screamed then, not words, just sound, raw, animal, until the military police dragged her out while photographers recorded every second for the morning news cycle. Later, back at the cemetery, she opened the urn. The ashes were still warm from the crematory. She pressed her lips to the gray dust and tasted her son. Then she swallowed the cyanide capsule she'd carried in her coat pocket since the verdict. Darkness rushed in like floodwater. And then light. A phone alarm blared. Sunlight stabbed through cheap blinds, the smell of burnt coffee and antiseptic. Evelyn jolted upright in her old Alexandria apartment. Heart hammering so hard, the monitor leads on her chest squealed. November 22, 2027. 7 days before the murder. 6 days before Dylan Langford would hand his bloodied knife to hired thugs and tell them exactly whose prints to put on it. She was alive, Alex was alive. And this time, she remembered everything. She stumbled to the hallway. Alex's bedroom door was cracked open. He was sprawled across the bed, one arm dangling, headphones still on, cramming for the SAT he would never get to take in the last life. 17, alive, breathing. Evelyn sank to the floor outside his door and cried without sound, shoulders shaking so hard she had to bite her fist to stay quiet. When she could stand again, she went to the safe hidden behind the water heater, spun the combination only she knew, and took out 2 things. 1, a flash drive containing every offshore account, every shell company, every misappropriated dollar Nathan had funneled to Sophia over the last decade. 2, her grandfather's silver star, the one he earned pulling 14 men out of a burning Humvee in Fallujah. The ribbon was frayed, the metal dark with age, but it still carried weight. She kissed the metal, slipped it into her pocket, and whispered to the empty apartment the promise that would define her second life. This time I don't beg. This time I burn it all down. 6 days, 23 hours, and 11 minutes left on the clock. Evelyn moved like a woman possessed. First, she forged the paperwork, nothing sophisticated, just enough to get Alex into the Department of Defense's classified Patriot Scholar pipeline under an alias. The program was reserved for children of fallen flag officers. Her grandfather's service record opened every door. By noon, Alex had a new Social Security number, a new acceptance letter, and a train ticket to a secure boarding facility in Colorado that even Nathan couldn't access. Alex thought it was a last-minute scholarship his mom had pulled strings for. He hugged her so hard her ribs creaked. Mom, are you sure I don't want to leave you here with "I'll be right behind you in a week"? She lied, smoothing his hair. Study hard. Make me proud. Then she made the call that would light the match. The Washington Post National Security Desk picked up on the second ring, tip line. I have documented proof that General Nathan Caldwell has maintained a second family in Georgetown for 9 years using misappropriated funds from the Joint Strike Fighter program, Evelyn said, voice steady as a scalpel photos, bank records, and DNA results on a minor child. Drop time is tomorrow at 6 a.m., unless you want CNN to have it first. She hung up before they could ask her name. The article hit at 5:47 a.m., front page, above the fold. General's secret mistress and love child funded by taxpayers. By Rachel Maddow-level bombshell standards, it was a nuclear revelation. Nathan used his emergency key at 6:03 a.m. He slammed into the apartment in Jim PT's, veins bulging in his neck. Security detail hovering awkwardly in the hallway because even they weren't sure whose side they were on anymore. Evelyn was drinking coffee at the kitchen counter, still in yesterday's scrubs, calm as a morgue. Nathan didn't speak. He backhanded her so hard the mug shattered against the wall, and blood flooded her mouth. You stupid, vindictive bitch, he hissed. Do you have any idea what you've done? Alex came tearing out of his bedroom in boxers and mismatched socks. A high school varsity baseball bat raised as if he were stepping up to the plate. Get away from my mom. Sophia glided in behind Nathan, perfect blowout, red lipstick, fake tears already pooling. Nathan, control yourself, sister. Please, if you need to hit someone, hit me. I'm the homewrecker here. Evelyn spat blood into the sink and smiled. The expression felt foreign on her face. She hadn't smiled in genuine joy since Alex was 9. Funny, she said, wiping her lip. Yesterday, someone tried to plant a knife with Dylan's blood type in Alex's trunk. Tell me, Nathan, did you sign off on that personally? Or did you let your mistress handle the details? The silence was so complete she could hear the ticking of the wall clock. Nathan's pupils contracted to pinpricks. Sophia's mask slipped for half a second, pure animal panic. They hadn't expected her to know. Not yet. Alex's knuckles went white on the bat. You framed me. His voice cracked between childhood and manhood. Your own son. Nathan recovered first. You have no proof. I have the knife. Evelyn lied smoothly. Safe deposit box. Fairfax. First National. And the security footage from the parking garage shows Dylan's face clearly. Let's take it to the Post too. I'm sure they'd love a follow-up. Nathan lunged. Alex swung the bat. The crack of aluminum on the forearm echoed like a gunshot. Nathan roared, grabbed the bat mid-swing, and yanked Alex forward by the throat. Evelyn moved without thinking years of trauma, surgery, and muscle memory. She snatched the chef's knife from the block and pressed it to the soft spot under Nathan's jaw. Touch him again, she whispered, and I will open your carotid in front of your own security detail. They can explain to the secretary why a 4-star general bled out over eggshell paint. The 2 MPs in the hallway shifted uncomfortably, hands drifting toward sidearms, but not quite committing. Nathan's eyes flicked to them, calculating. He let go of Alex. Sophia tried for tears again. Nathan, let's go. She's unstable. No, Evelyn said, lowering the knife but not sheathing it. You're going to listen. In 6 days, your son murders a college student and frames me. I know because I watched it happen once already. This time, the world finds out first. She stepped closer, voice dropping to a lover's murmur only Nathan could hear. I'm going to take everything from you, Nathan. Your stars, your pension, your precious nomination. And when you're stripped bare and begging on your knees, I'm going to look you in the eye and remind you that you did this to yourself the day you chose them over your own blood. For the first time in 20 years of marriage, Nathan Caldwell looked afraid. He left without another word, Sophia trailing behind him like smoke. The door slammed. Alex stood shaking in the wreckage of the kitchen, bruise blooming across his throat. Mom, what happens now? Evelyn pulled him into her arms, felt his heartbeat racing against her own, and told him the only truth that mattered. Now we fight dirty, baby, and we don't stop until they're the ones holding the ashes. The retaliation came before the sun was fully up. Evelyn had stepped out at 5:47 a.m., To drive Alex to Union Station, he was catching the first train west under his new identity. She kissed him hard on the forehead, told him she loved him more than oxygen, and watched the silver Amtrak disappear around the bend. By the time she got back to Alexandria, 43 minutes later, her apartment door was hanging off one hinge. Two men in black tactical pants ex-Marines she recognized from Nathan's personal security detail were stuffing files into evidence bags. Dylan Langford stood in the middle of her living room, 17 and smug, holding Alex's shredded Patriot Scholar packet over the kitchen sink while the burner beneath it turned the future to ash. Nathan waited on the couch like a king on a throne, legs crossed, service cap in his lap. "Morning, Eve," he said pleasantly. "We have a problem." She reached for the Beretta tucked in her waistband. One of the ex-Marines was faster. He twisted her arm behind her back, slammed her face first into the refrigerator, and zip-tied her wrists before the gun cleared leather. Nathan rose slowly. Unauthorized enrollment of a dependent using forged documentation. That's a felony under the UCMJ. And since Alex is still technically my legal son until the divorce is finalized. He shrugged. Military custody takes precedence. He walked over to the sink, picked up the last flaming page of Alex's acceptance letter, and let it burn down to his fingers before dropping it into the stainless steel. "Your little stunt with the Post bought you 48 hours of fame," he continued. "But headlines fade. Senate hearings can be rescheduled. All I have to do is make one phone call, and Alex disappears into the disciplinary barracks at Fort Leavenworth until he's 21, no record, no appeal, no visitors." Evelyn tasted blood where her lip had split against the fridge. "Had you imprisoned your own son to save your career?" "He's a liability now," Nathan said, almost gently. "You made him one." Dylan laughed, high and cruel. "You should have let me finish the job the first time, Doc." The words detonated inside her skull. First time, meaning in the previous life. This had already happened, only then there had been no second chance, no rebirth, no warning. Nathan nodded to the ex-Marines. They dragged her toward the bedroom. She fought, kicked, bit, screamed, but zip ties and 250 pounds of muscle don't care about desperation. They threw her on the bed, face down. She heard the clink of a belt buckle. Nathan's voice, close to her ear. "I'm going to remind you who you belong to, Evelyn. Then you're going to sign the divorce papers exactly as written, quiet. No alimony, full custody to me. After that, you can crawl back to whatever trauma bay will still have you. Or don't sign. And Alex spends the next 4 years learning what solitary really means." His weight settled on her back. That was when the front door exploded inward. Colonel Ryan Whitaker, 6'4". Special Forces. The man who had quietly replaced Nathan as J3 on the Joint Staff stood in the splintered frame with 4 MPs in complete kit behind him. "General Caldwell," Ryan said, voice like gravel over ice. "Step away from Dr. Harlow. You are under arrest for assault, destruction of government property, and conspiracy to commit kidnapping across state lines." Nathan froze. One of the ex-Marines reached for a sidearm. An MP tased him so hard he pissed himself. Nathan tried bluster. "Do you have any idea who I—" "Save it for the Article 32, sir." Ryan's smile never reached his eyes. "Secretary Hargrove signed something only a minute ago. Someone sent him an exciting video at 4 a.m. Evelyn's baby monitor footage cloud-backed up the second Nathan's goons kicked in the door, had already hit the Pentagon's secure server. Nathan was cuffed, read his rights, and marched out past neighbors filming on their phones. Dylan tried to bolt. Ryan caught him by the collar, lifted him clear off the ground, and whispered something that made the boy's face go the color of spoiled milk. Then Ryan turned to Evelyn, cut the zip ties with a combat knife, and helped her to her feet. "You okay, ma'am?" She wasn't. Her wrist was sprained, her lip bleeding, and the place where Nathan's weight had been still burned like a brand. But she managed a nod. Ryan glanced at the smoldering remains in the sink. "We'll get the packet reconstructed. Kid's still going to Colorado. No one touches him again." She believed him. As the MPs hauled Nathan into the morning light, he twisted for one last look at her. "This isn't over," he snarled. Evelyn met his eyes, voice raw but steady. "Yes, Nathan, it is." That night she didn't sleep. She sat on the fire escape in borrowed army sweats, ice pack on her wrist. staring at the city that had eaten her son once and was hungry for seconds. The memories came in waves, previous life memories, sharp as scalpels. She remembered the first time Sophia Langford had shown up at Walter Reed, 8 months pregnant, claiming complications. No one else would touch her, too much political risk, mistress of a rising star. Evelyn had taken the case anyway. She remembered performing the emergency C-section herself when the OB on call refused. Remembered the tiny, squalling boy with Nathan's eyes. Remembered Sophia whispering, "I can't breastfeed," the medication, and Evelyn foolish, kind, exhausted from 36-hour shifts, offering her own milk because the preemie was failing to thrive. 6 months she pumped for a child who wasn't hers. 6 months. She rocked Dylan to sleep when Sophia was too depressed. 6 months. She told herself she was doing it for Nathan, for the marriage, for the family they were supposed to be. She remembered Nathan coming home on leave, kissing her forehead, and saying, "You're an angel, Eve. I don't deserve you." She remembered believing him. She remembered the exact moment everything fractured, finding the Georgetown deed in Nathan's desk, the one that listed Sophia Langford Caldwell as co-owner, purchased the same month Alex's college fund mysteriously emptied. She remembered swallowing it all. Every affair, every lie, every missing dollar because good military wives don't make waves, because Alex needed a father. After all, love is patient, love is kind, love keeps no record of wrongs. Love had kept a perfect record, and love had watched her son die for it. A sob tore out of her chest so violently that it bent her in half. Ryan Whitaker found her there at 0300, still on the fire escape, knees to chest, shaking hard enough to rattle the metal stairs. He didn't ask permission. He sat behind her, pulled her back against his chest, and wrapped her up in the kind of silence that doesn't demand answers. After a long time, she spoke, voice shredded. "In another life, I saved her. I saved both of them. I gave them everything, and they put my baby in the ground for a Senate seat." Ryan's arms tightened. "This time, we make sure they're the ones who don't get up." She turned in the circle of his arms, searched his face, hard lines, scar through one eyebrow, eyes that had seen too much and still chose to look gentle. "I'm not a good person anymore," she whispered. "I'm going to destroy them, all of them, and I won't lose sleep." Ryan brushed a thumb across her swollen lip. Careful, reverent. Good people don't survive what you survived. Evelyn? Survivors do. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was her grandfather's silver star cleaned, ribbon replaced, gleaming. "Reed had it couriered over," he said. "Said to tell you the older man would be proud you're finally cashing it in." She stared at the metal until her vision began to blur. Then she closed the box, slipped it into her own pocket next to her heart, and made the vow out loud for the first time. No more kindness, no more forgiveness, no more second chances. Ryan rested his forehead against hers. "Then let's start a war." Dawn over the Pentagon was the color of dried blood. Evelyn walked through the river entrance at 0547 wearing a borrowed set of Marpat utilities that were 2 sizes too big, and the calm of a woman who had already died once. No makeup, no sleep, eyes red-rimmed but steady. In her left hand, the rusted tin box. In her right, a plain manila folder containing the death warrant for everything Nathan Caldwell had ever wanted. She did not go to the secretary's outer office this time. She went straight to the E-Ring conference room, where the Joint Chiefs held their weekly tank sessions. The Marine sentry at the door took one look at the silver star pinned crookedly to her chest. She had done it herself with shaking fingers in the parking lot and stepped aside without a word. Inside, 5 4-star generals were already seated around the oak table, coffee steaming, secure tablets glowing. General Amos Reed, chairman, looked up first. His eyes flicked to the metal, then to her face, and the color drained from him. "Jesus Christ, Evie, you look like your grandfather just climbed out of Arlington." She didn't answer. She laid the tin on the table, opened it, and arranged the metals one by one like surgical instruments. Silver Star, Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Purple Hearts. The Navy Cross. Granddad had been attached to the Marines in Fallujah. Then she opened the folder and slid the contents across the polished wood stills from the baby monitor footage. Bank transfers. the DNA report proving Dylan was Nathan's, and finally, the audio transcript of Nathan ordering Alex's frame-up. Reed's hand shook as he read the last page. The others were already reaching for secure phones. Evelyn spoke for the first time, voice flat, surgical. 6 days from now, my son will be dead if you do nothing. I'm not here to beg. I'm here to collect on blood debt. My grandfather pulled 14 men out of a burning Bradley in 2004. One of them was the current Secretary of the Army. Another wrote Nathan Caldwell's West Point recommendation when he was a nobody with a GED and a dream. I want 10 minutes alone with Nathan. No cameras. Then I want him destroyed in public. Slowly. General Laura Vasquez, Air Force, the only woman in the room, leaned forward. You want us to break the man who's third in line for chairman? I want you to remember who kept your husbands alive when they were 23 and bleeding out in the sand, Evelyn said. And then I want you to make a choice. Silence stretched so tight the air conditioning sounded like artillery. Reed closed the folder. 10 minutes, he said, sub-level 3, Sikif 7. After that, we go public so hard his grandchildren will still feel it. They moved like lightning. By 07:15, Nathan was escorted into the secure holding room, wrists zip-tied, believing he was there for an emergency Syria briefing. The door locked behind him. Evelyn was already waiting. He tried for command presence. Evie, whatever you think. She stepped forward and placed the Navy cross on the metal table between them. Nathan stared at it as if it were radioactive. You knew him as Old Man Jerry, she said softly. The one-armed vet who wrote your recommendation letter in 1998 because he saw something in a dirt-poor kid from nowhere, Iowa. He called you the son he never had. He died ashamed of the monster he created. Nathan's mouth worked soundlessly. Evelyn leaned in until their faces were inches apart. You killed my son once. You will never touch him again. She turned to leave. Nathan lunged, screaming her name, making promises and threats, begging. The sound chased her all the way up the elevator shaft. It was the last time anyone ever heard General Nathan Caldwell sound like a man in control. The takedown was surgical and merciless. Day 1, 09:00. The Washington Post published the baby monitor footage at the exact moment every major network morning show went live. Within minutes, General Caldwell became a worldwide trending topic. The clip of Nathan throwing 17-year-old Alex onto glass played on loop beside file photos of him saluting the flag. Day 2, 1420. FBI and DCIS agents in windbreakers raided Sophia's K Street lobbying firm. They seized servers showing $47 million in bribes, routed through shell companies, all approved by Nathan's signature on classified contract waivers. Day 3, 03:11. Dylan Langford tried to board a Gulfstream at Dulles bound for Grand Cayman. Marshals tackled him on the tarmac in front of a plane load of TikTok influencers. The murder weapon, still with dried blood, was found gift-wrapped in Sophia's wine cellar with a bow that literally said, "For Evelyn." Day 5, 11:00. Sophia, facing life without parole, flipped spectacularly. In a recorded proffer session, she played 8 years of Pillow Talk recordings. The worst Nathan laughing over steak at Ruth's Chris. Alex is collateral damage. The kid was never going anywhere anyway. Dylan gets the future he deserves. The Senate canceled Nathan's confirmation hearing before the gavel even fell. Day 9, 06:00. The president accepted Nathan's immediate retirement on national television, voice tight with disgust. 4 stars became none overnight. But Evelyn wasn't done. She filed a civil suit the same day, seeking 19 years of withheld support, intentional infliction of emotional distress, loss of consortium, and punitive damages. The judge, Colonel Raytate, Maria Delgado, whose own son had died in Afghanistan, set the trial on the rocket docket and refused every motion to seal. The jury took 47 minutes to award her $12.4 million and every asset jointly held, including the Georgetown mansion, the Chesapeake Bay house, and Nathan's entire retirement account. Nathan showed up drunk at her temporary quarters on Fort Myer at 2:14 a.m., the night the verdict came down, pounding on the door in a civilian suit that hung off him like guilt. "Call Reed," he slurred. "Tell him it was a mistake. Tell him about Jerry." Evelyn opened the door barefoot, hair loose, holding a glass of the bourbon the jury had just paid for. "My grandfather died believing you were worth saving," she said. "Tonight he's finally right." She closed the door in his face. Behind her, Ryan Whitaker, now wearing Nathan's old stars, stood silently in the hallway, arms crossed, making sure Nathan left the building alive. Barely. Sophia took a plea 25 years, no parole. Dylan, tried as an adult, received a life sentence. Nathan got mandatory retirement at 06 pay, public disgrace, and the knowledge that every dime he would ever earn now belonged to the woman he destroyed. But the final blow came from an unexpected direction. The same week the verdict dropped, the DoD Inspector General quietly reopened the 2004 Fallujah investigation. Turns out Nathan's Silver Star citation, written by a captain who died 2 weeks later, had inconsistencies. Eyewitnesses suddenly remembered things differently when assured they would not face charges. The medal was revoked. Nathan Caldwell, the farm boy who clawed his way to 4 stars, ended his career with 0 combat awards and a reputation so toxic that even defense contractors wouldn't return his calls. He was last seen pumping gas in rural Pennsylvania, wearing a MAGA hat and a name tag that read, Nate. 2 years later, Walter Reed's new trauma wing bore a bronze plaque, the Alexander James Harlow Trauma Center, dedicated to second chances. Evelyn stood on the rooftop garden at sunset in dress whites that finally fit. Silver Star now rightfully hers, by congressional citation. Watching Ryan pin Major's leaves on Alex's uniform. Her son taller, harder, eyes older than 20, saluted crisp enough to cut glass. "Reporting for duty, ma'am," he said, voice steady. She pulled him into a hug that cracked ribs and whispered, "You came back to me?" Behind them, Ryan's daughter Lily, 6 years old, adopted after her mother died in childbirth, tugged Evelyn's sleeve. "Mommy Eve, when's Uncle Alex coming home for good?" "Soon, baby. He just has to yell at some soldiers in Kentucky first." Alex laughed, the sound bright and whole and alive. Later, when the sky was the color of bruised peaches, Evelyn walked alone to the reflection pool. She carried the original urn gray, government issue, still holding a single teaspoon of ashes from the first life. She opened it. The wind took the last of her son's previous death and scattered it across the Capitol that had tried to eat him. "I kept my promise," she whispered to the dusk. Footsteps behind her. Ryan, off duty now, no cover, just jeans and the quiet strength that had held her together when she was nothing but sharp edges and grief. He slipped his arms around her waist from behind and rested his chin on her shoulder. "Marry me," he said, "not because you need saving, because I want to wake up every day for the rest of my life next to the strongest woman I've ever known." She turned in his arms, searched his face, and saw nothing but truth. "Yes," she said. They married 3 months later in the Arlington Chapel where her grandfather's funeral had been held. Alex stood as the best man. Lily scattered rose petals with fierce concentration. General Reed gave the bride away, eyes wet. Nathan wasn't invited. He was serving weekends in county jail for drunk and disorderly, could only afford the fine during the week, and living in a one-room apartment above a vape shop. Sophia's appeals ran out. She was transferred to maximum security after trying to hang herself with a bedsheet. Dylan never made it to adult prison, shanked in the showers by boys whose brothers he had once framed. The last anyone heard of Nathan Caldwell was when he tried to sell his old dress uniform on eBay. The listing was taken down for violating the policy on memorabilia of disgraced officers. Evelyn never looked back. She built a life made of sunlight and second chances trauma director by day, wife and mother by night, nightmares rare and fading. Some nights she still woke gasping, reaching for a son who was no longer dead. Ryan learned to hold her until the shaking stopped. Whispering, "He's downstairs raiding the fridge. Listen, you can hear him swearing at the milk carton." And she would laugh through tears, because it was true. One spring morning in 2030, Alex called from Fort Bragg. "Mom," he said, excitement crackling down the line. "There's someone I want you to meet. She's a flight surgeon. We're getting married next year." Evelyn closed her eyes, felt the last scar inside her chest finally, quietly, knit itself closed. In 2 lifetimes, she had lost everything and rebuilt it stronger. She had not just survived. She had burned their kingdom to white ash and planted roses in the ruins. And every year, on November 29th, the day her son was supposed to die, she and Ryan and Alex, and whichever new grandchildren were loudest, went back to Section 60. They left no flowers. They left medals instead. Because some debts are paid forward, not back. And some women, once broken, learned to break the world open and let the light in.